On June 12, 1975, a young engineer named Steven Sasson stepped out of the shadows of a cramped laboratory at East Eastman Kodak and held in his hands the first prototype of a device that would forever rewrite the language of light, the digital camera. It was a clunky 0.01 megapixel box that captured images on a cassette of magnetic tape, a curiosity that could have turned the world upside down. Yet the very company that birthed it, Kodak, the titan of film that had ruled photography for a century, decided to bury the invention, fearing it would cannibalize the empire built on silver halide crystals and glossy prints. Kodak's story began in 1888 when George Eastman sold the first simple portable camera. You press the button, we do the rest. By the 1930s, the company had perfected the roll film format, turning snapshots into a daily ritual for families across the globe. The iconic yellow box, the 35mm film cartridge, and the slogan, "You press the button, we do the rest," turned Kodak into a cultural cornerstone. The brand became synonymous with memory itself. Its stock surged, its dividends grew, and its name adorned everything from school desks to astronaut helmets. The mid-20th century was a golden era. Kodak pioneered the first color film, the first instant camera, and the first motion picture film stock that could capture the wonder of Hollywood. Its research labs churned out innovations at a relentless pace, and by the 1970s, the company was pouring more than $1 billion a year into R&D. In 1975, that same commitment birthed Sasson's digital prototype, a modest 0.01 megapixel image captured in black and white, stored on a cassette and displayed on a television monitor. It was a marvel, but the board saw a threat. The digital sensor could make film obsolete, and film sales accounted for nearly 90% of Kodak's revenue. The decision was made. The technology would be shelved, its potential locked away while the analog empire continued its reign. The warning signs began as quiet murmurs in the early 1990s. Personal computers were becoming household fixtures, and a new generation of engineers was perfecting charge-coupled devices, CCD, that could convert light into electronic signals far more efficiently than any film grain. In 1991, Kodak finally unveiled its own digital camera, the DCS, Digital Camera System, a clunky, professional-grade device built on a Nikon body. It was priced at $12,000, far beyond the reach of amateurs, but it signaled a reluctant acknowledgement that the digital tide could not be held back forever. Meanwhile, competitors were sprinting ahead. Sony introduced the Mavica in 1981, a magnetic video camera that recorded still frames onto floppy disks. In 1999, Nikon, Canon, and Sony rolled out consumer-grade digital point-and-shoots that could capture 2-megapixel images for under $300. The market was shifting, and Kodak's core product, film, began to erode. Sales of photographic paper and processing chemicals slipped by double digits each year. The company tried to adapt, launching the Easy Share line in 2001, a modest foray into consumer digital cameras, and investing heavily in inkjet printers and digital printing services. Yet each new digital product was dwarfed by the momentum of rivals that had embraced the technology from the start. The collapse accelerated with the rise of smartphones. By 2007, the iPhone had turned a pocket device into a camera that could instantly share photos across the globe. The convenience of a single device that could capture, edit, and upload images in seconds made dedicated cameras feel redundant for many users. Kodak's revenue, which had peaked at $20 billion in 1999, fell to $11 billion by 2010. The company's profit margins shrank and its massive manufacturing plants, once humming factories of film and paper, sat idle, their machines gathering dust. In January 2012, the inevitable happened. Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. a dramatic fall from grace for the once unshakable leader of visual culture. The filing listed $5 billion in debts against $8 billion in assets, a staggering imbalance that reflected not only a failure to pivot but a deep-rooted belief that the world would never abandon film. The bankruptcy court approved a restructuring plan that sold off Kodak's digital imaging patents to Apple for $525 million, handed its consumer product division to a consortium of investors, and left the iconic Kodak name to emerge as a smaller, licensing-focused entity. The aftermath was a cautionary tale that rippled through boardrooms worldwide. Former Kodak executives testified before Congress, admitting that internal politics, a rigid corporate culture, and an over-reliance on the nostalgic power of film had blinded the company to the digital revolution it had helped create. The story became a textbook example of disruptive innovation gone awry, a brilliant invention buried to protect a legacy, only to be outpaced by those willing to embrace change. Yet the legacy of Kodak endures in surprising ways. Photographers still cherish the warm, grainy aesthetic of Kodak film, and a resurgence of analog photography has turned vintage cameras and rolls of film into coveted collectibles. Meanwhile, Kodak's patents on digital sensor technology continue to generate licensing revenue, fueling a new business model that leans on its own forgotten inventions. In 2020, the company announced a partnership with a blockchain firm to develop a tokenized image rights platform, a modern twist on the age-old question of who owns a photograph. The rise and fall of Kodak remind us that innovation is a double-edged sword. Subscribe to The Collapse for more stories like this.